Why are we here? Why are we here? That's the topic that we're going to be exploring in the month of February 2012 at the Church of Christ on 1330 Herkimer Road in Utica, New York. So if you are wondering, why are we here? I want to invite you to join us every Sunday morning at 10:30 in the morning to worship with us, but then hear a lesson that's going to explain a biblical view of why we exist. Now, to introduce this topic, I wanted to look at a couple of different things. The first is when you ask the question, why are we here? You have to come to one of two conclusions. The first is that there's no reason, we are really here. We exist simply to exist. The second, that would be more along the biblical point of view, is that there is a reason. Now, I wanted to look at that idea for a second, because if you determine that there is a reason that we're here, I think that there's four conclusions that ultimately you'll be drawing. The first is, if there is a reason we're here, then that reason is determined by some external source, something that is beyond us, something that's bigger than us. And that source would have been there before we existed and determined why we would exist. And thus that force, that entity, would be what created us and designed us and purposed us. And so you'd have to come ultimately to that conclusion. Or else you're saying that everyone can determine their own course, everyone can determine their own purpose, which would really leave us as just existing and having a blank slate that we could just determine on our own. And that would get you back into that category of ultimately there's no reason we exist. Everybody just gets to choose their own reason. So when you say there is a reason that we're here, and when you're searching for that reason, you also are kind of concluding that there is a higher being that exists, that has created us and that has purposed us. With that, the second conclusion is that there is some kind of life after this life. Because when you say there had to have been some kind of life before this life, something that existed, that created us, then the hope is that we don't just live this one life and then die and then it's it. The hope is that we live this life, and when we pass from this life, we pass on to something else, that we then can be with the one that created us, that we can live in that world that is bigger and greater than our world. We can be a part of that life that is better than our life. So that'd be the second conclusion that you would draw, is that there's a life after ours. The third is, if I want to know the reason for my existence on this world and in this life, that I would seek the answers from the Creator. So if I'm concluding that there is something that's bigger than us and beyond us, some kind of entity, some kind of creator and designer, and I want to know why I'm here, then that's the source I'm going to go to try to find that answer. And so that is a logical conclusion. Now, fourthly, when I successfully obtain that information and I seek and I search from the Creator and ask the Creator, why is it that you created me? Why am I here? The fourth conclusion that we would draw is, when I receive that information, when I get the answer, that would change my life. Because previously, I lived as if we were only here to exist. And so my purpose was whatever I determined my purpose to be. Now, when I understand that there is a reason, or I want there to be a reason, or I'm seeking a reason, and I find out what that reason is, that's going to change the course of my life. Now I'm not going to live how I want to live. I'm not going to live based on what I think my purpose should be. I'm going to live based on what the one who created me, designed me to be, and purposed me to be. Now, that's all ideal, is that from a Christian's point of view especially, we understand the Creator to be God, and that we would ask God, why am I here? And that when God says, this is why you're here, that we would say, okay, well, I'm going to do it your way then, and I'm not going to do it my way. But there's also four responses that I wanted to quickly highlight, because if you're going to be a part of this lesson series, and you're going to hear these lessons, it's important to understand how you might react to them before we get into them. So the first reaction is distraction. Lots of times in our lives we've asked the question, why are we here? But how many times have we even come to those two conclusions? Either there's a reason or there's not a reason. A lot of times we ask the question because of something that's going on in our life, and we quickly move past it. And we just get distracted. You know what? I got to pay my bills. I got to go get the groceries. I got to take a shower. Things like that. And all of a sudden, our mind's on to the next thing. So distraction plays a big part in even answering the question, why are we here? The second thing is avoidance. You know what? Why are we here? I kind of get the sense that there is a reason, that there is a creator, and I'm scared. I'm scared of what the reason might be. And so I have the question, and part of me wants to know the answer, but part of me wants to just live in my ignorance and my bliss. And thirdly, kind of piggybacking off of that, would be selfishness. Is because I like the way, not that I'm scared of what's going to be coming at me, scared of the answer, but basically I know the answer. I know the answer is going to be that the creator and the maker wants me to be living in a way that is different than how I'm living. And so even though I do wonder why I'm here, I'd rather just keep on going living the life that I'm living. So there's selfishness. And lastly is obedience. And that's what we were talking about with that fourth conclusion, is that I hear the answer that my maker is telling me. I understand the purpose and the reason why God made this world, why he created human beings in his likeness. And so I give my life to him. And I say, this is what you made me for, this is what you designed me for, then I will fulfill that. I will live how you want me to live. And that would be the fourth way. Now, these are important to look at because if we're going to ask the question together, why are we here? Why am I here? Then we need to determine together, before we even ask the question, what will our response be? Am I going to tune out the answers? Am I going to be selfish and say, I know that's what they're saying, I know this is what God wants from me, but I don't care? Are we going to just get distracted? Wow, those are great answers, that's how I should live my life, but we just get caught up in the daily grind? Or will we be obedient to what God says, what his word says our purpose is here on earth? I hope that we'll choose obedience, and I hope that you'll join us the next 4 Sundays as we look into this topic and see what the Bible has to say about the answer to the question, why are we here?